There we go. It looks as if we are now going to be heading for a start. That Lisa just keeping an eye on the flags and the sounds coming from the start boat. And I make it that, Lisa, are we 10 minutes away? 10 minutes, do you reckon, or more?
I heard the hoot, I didn't see the flag, so I believe that it's a 10-minute sequence, unless we've got one to go before the 10, but it was so loud, I imagine that was the 10. We're checking.
We hope that that is the 10-minute sequence. Peter, do you have any news on shore?
Well, I don't have news on shore for you, Guy, but we are on board with Puma Ocean Racing, and we can see the guys on the foredeck now plugging in a head sail. So it does look like they are starting to get ready and get down to the business of being ready to start this race soon. I would imagine postponement is ended, and we're just coming up to a 10-minute signal now. You can see navigator Andrew Cape, for once, is out of his hovel. He's up on deck. He's got the computer on deck with him, and he's in earnest discussion with Kenny Reid as they plan out their start here, Guy.
Well, Ericsson 4 have left Puma alone for the time being. They've just gone very briskly behind us, and the wind is certainly filling in out here, Peter, and we are in for a wild and windy and a wet start, you feel, for the guys on board, and possibly for us, depending on how we crash around out here. Lisa again just making sure that we're nicely placed. So a Puma it is now who go past, and I can see Shannon Falcone, one of the new crew members, alongside Kenny Reid, the skipper of the Puma Ocean Racing team. Delta Lloyd and Green Dragon, Telefonica Blue we can see now, and you do feel that now we're heading for the start in earnest. The sandwiches will have been put away, the flasks of tea will have been put away. The guys are now getting ready to race. The sails are coming up at the moment as well, so now we're getting more of an idea of what we think the guys are going to try and do. Still though, Ericsson 4 and Puma keep their powder dry, so not quite sure what we can expect from them. And of course we saw Puma's Code Zero that was so effective when they were blasting off in the import race in Alicante. Whether they'll need it in this much breeze, we're not sure. Probably a little bit too dangerous. Have we got Canute back yet, Peter? Do you know?
Well, I don't think we do yet, Guy. I haven't heard anything from him, but might give him a ring in a moment and see if we can get him back.
I think he's been busy clearing the start line. I think that's why we haven't heard from him recently. He and that boat have been whizzing around trying to clear all the spectators away, and we do have an armada out here to see the boats off. If you're getting those helicopter pictures of the amount of boats that are out here on the water, they will make absolutely spectacular viewing. And well, enjoy them, watching them on .tv, www.volvooceanrace.tv, and listening on .org. We can see our Spanish commentary, our co-commentary team, who are on the Spanish website. So those of you watching on in Spain, perhaps you'd like to turn our volume down and crank up the Spanish commentary. Amanda Blackley leading the team there with Maria Bertrand. So please have a listen to the Spanish commentary if you're in Spain. And for those of you who prefer it, stick with us here. Lisa McDonald, Guy Swindles, Peter Rush keeping an eye on all the pictures coming in. And we're pretty hopeful that Canute Frostat, once he has cleared the start line and we are underway, will be back with us to let us know exactly what's going on, because he's on a rib, he can whiz around, he can get to places we simply can't. Lisa just has an enormous smile on her face. You like this bit of the race, don't you?
It's fantastic. I was just giggling because I've just noticed a container ship here between us and the harbour has slowed down to have a little cheeky look on their way in, I'm sure. Very busy and important shipping lanes just coming into the main port here as the last port at the tip of the Cape. It is incredibly busy and very important to keep clear of those as well. So lots of logistics to work out for both spectators and race crews alike.
There's one thing that we should mention, in fact that's absolutely right, Cape Town Harbour, one of the busiest in the world, and trade needs to continue despite the Volvo Ocean Race being in town. So here we go, watching Telefonica Black go across and cruising along nicely. Fernando Echevarri, the skipper, of course, didn't have the most enjoyable journey down, had a few problems. Do we make that the 5 minute? We have the 5 minute, my reliably informed by my timekeeper, who is going to count me in bang on 10 seconds before the start gun, which would be a first. But that's what we're aiming for today. First time for everything as Green Dragon go across us, and looking in very good shape. Lisa mentioned someone was up the mast on Green Dragon. They look as if they've come down now. So that piece that arrived in Holland at midnight last night has been successfully attached, and Green Dragon ready to go. And just on that, Lisa, almost just as well it happened then rather than just after the start of the leg.
Absolutely. What had happened is they had broken a spreader when they'd gone out sailing, and that type of thing is absolutely catastrophic when you're that far away from land. It could have been on the day, but fortunately they managed to get back, find a spare and fit it in time. But down to the 11th hour, but as we remember when we left in Alicante before the start, they had a couple of problems then, a few issues at the time, and they managed to get them sorted and have a bit of a good leg. So for all the boats, you never know whether you're feeling entirely confident and fully prepared. There's always something that can be a niggle at the last moment, but once that gun goes, there's no going back, and you are entirely self-sufficient out there.
As our skipper just puts the accelerator down a little bit as we have to get out of the way of Ericsson 4. Always wise to get out of the way of Torben Grail and Ericsson 4. Yes, it's interesting that we do have boats circling around us now as they do count down now for the start, which is less than 5 minutes away. Less than 5 minutes away, the start of the second leg of the Volvo Ocean Race down to Ho Chi Minh. The first time we've done that in the race. It's been interesting talking to the guys about how long that they think that this is going to take. I've heard everything from 14, the very optimistic, to 22 as the pessimistic journey. Most guys have gone with about 18 days food, and if they should park up on their way to India, then there could be a few hungry bodies when we reach Ho Chi Minh. So desperately difficult to tell exactly what's happening. Now in front of us, Lisa, you're watching them circle, and well, if you're watching from the helicopter, you can almost throw a blanket over them at the moment. No one giving an inch.
No, it's quite exciting though. If you're on the water looking up at the boats now, you might notice that most of them have got a small jibber, which is what they will use to get up to the start line and do their pre-race manoeuvring and their early race manoeuvring. As I've noticed, the last couple of boats have started to put up a big sail that's furled up on the very, very bow of the boat, to the top of the mast, a Jenica of some description, or nearly top of the mast, but that's what they'll use once they go off the wind. It's a little bit tricky to tell right now what the course will be, if it be a little bit more reachy or a little bit more downwind running. So I think some of them are preparing for a bit of a reach, then maybe get a spinnaker up if the winds change. But as it is patchy, looking down the course a little bit, it's sort of a bit of a guess right now as to how that wind might change as they get nearer towards between Robben Island and the beach.
Well, we'll make sure that we're alongside the start line and we can let you know exactly who is first over. We hope that we'll be along the start line so we can tell you exactly who is over. I'm guessing someone is driving upstairs now.
Guy, we have a fantastic helicopter shot right now, and it looks like a real face-to-face between Ericsson and Green Dragon on starboard tack. Telefonica Blue, Puma heading nearly directly at them on port tack, and we're just watching Telefonica Blue now as they start to ease off the wind a little bit, and it looks like they're going to fall in line a little bit behind Puma Ocean Racing.
1 minute
back
to the
up
start
towards the wind now, and looks like they're rolling into attack. Yes, they are. There's Telefonica Blue just going around now, and we'll see as they approach that starting line. They've got Green Dragon up to weather, Puma just downwind of them, and the two Ericsson boats right in the mix as well. Coming tight up, Lisa, we've got Team Russia and Delta Lloyd, and Team Russia's got a head of steam on.
Yeah, Team Russia do have a head of steam on at the moment, but it's weird. It's almost like watching, Lisa was just saying, it's almost like watching in slow motion from out here on the water as they jockey for position. But Team Russia are coming at some pace at the moment. So, Lisa, I'll make sure that you're in position for the start, as we are now 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ish. And the start any second now, and it does look as if Puma have got us underway first. Just behind Puma is Ericsson 4. Just to see Ericsson 4, so Puma and Ericsson 4 once again. Green Dragon third across the line. Fourth across the line, Telefonica Black. Just behind them, Telefonica Blue. We're now in front of Puma. We now need to get in the right position. I'm going to get Lisa back, who had to actually make sure our boat was out of the way of the leaders before we can actually go ahead with the full commentary. But it is Puma who have started superbly, tied with Ericsson 4 there. And, well, Lisa, you've been in the start, but we were counted a lot of times as if we were as well there. Who for you made the best start?
I really like them. I really like the black cats right on the Kibisi boat there. He just wants to be right over the Torben on that one, you can tell.
And it was Puma who were first away, and Puma who are extending the lead. Yes, at the moment, it does look as if all the railers to follow Puma. Still waiting for attack from Telefonica Blue. Puma just in the wash really at the moment. Puma leading from Ericsson 4. Telefonica Blue alongside Ericsson 4. Green Dragon. Looks as if they've gone for the centre of the course, if you like, at the moment. Far left side is Telefonica Blue. Ericsson 3. Delta Lloyd. Looks as if they're struggling. Team Rush is certainly up with the pack as well. Disappointing start again from Delta Lloyd. We also saw that in Alicante. It's the difficulty of having a new skipper on board. You're having to get your team right, your preparations right, your practice starts right, and Delta Lloyd perhaps just coming out behind the rest of the pack. But what a start by Puma. They are racing away at the moment, Lisa.
Hey Guy, this is Knut, I'm with you in case you want to comment here from the leeward side of the fleet.
At the moment, the Puma has launched ahead of the entire fleet right now down the race course. I think unfortunately for Torben, he managed to get a little bit sucked up in under Telefonica Blue there, and he also got rolled around a little bit by some of the chop.
We've just got to go, Pete, where have we got to go? We've just got to go somewhere. Knut, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm just the leeward of Telefonica Black, so we're right with the whole pack here, and obviously Puma got a great start, and Puma went also with a big masted Jennaker. I mean, it's interesting to see that the boats are having a very different sail setup. So Ericsson 4 was the most conservative, going with a fractional smaller sail, and it looks like Puma made the right choice, obviously, because they can lay the mark, as I can see from here, with the spinnaker they have now, and that's going to be very important. So definitely a great start for Puma, but right now the breeze is picking up for everybody, and I think we'll see it building for the next half an hour for sure.
Knut, down near you, Green Dragon was interesting on that start too. They were the first ones to go with the big head sail. They started a little bit behind, but they had better speed than anybody crossing the line, and I think that stood them in fairly good stead down to leeward of the fleet.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit surprising to see that some of the boats had big problems unfurling their sails, and looked a bit surprised. But I think we had a few problems with the spectators as well at the start, so that made them be a bit conservative here at the beginning.
Lisa has very kindly handed over her headphones because I can now actually hear what's been going on in my ears. So Knut, thank you for that. Puma have made an absolutely superb start. We're running pretty much alongside them, and just looking back towards the rest of the fleet. Ericsson 4 and Telefonica Blue are on the right-hand side of the course at the moment, with Team Russia. Coming up the middle are Green Dragon. On the far side of the course, Ericsson 3 and Telefonica Black, with Delta Lloyd currently bringing up the rear. But Puma just extending the lead. That old adage about the rich getting richer, certainly looking that way for Puma at the moment. And we're really having to put the hammer down just to keep up with them. It is perfect sailing conditions. Lisa, any idea what sort of speeds we're doing at the moment?
We're going pretty bumpy and pretty fast, Guy. Last thing I did notice was Knut's comment about the different sail combinations. We saw some of that in Alicante as well. And looking back at the fleet right now, several of them do have big masthead spinnakers. Others have got more fractional Jennakers and going different angles. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out when we get down here to the mark.
as that's something we will be talking about with Canute as well, is what sails do you take to India? We're at 22 knots at the moment along Puma, and Puma's continuing to go away with us. 26 knots, I'm reliably informed, we've been doing. So this is champagne sailing as far as Puma are concerned, and indeed the rest of the fleet. And largely the spectator fleet has been left miles behind. Unless you're on a boat like us at the moment, well, you really have no chance of staying with the leaders of the fleet. Puma then, still leading. Ericsson 4, and look at that clean air, are now beginning to look as if they're moving away from the rest of the fleet in second. Be interesting to see Dragon come out. Yes, over to you, Canute.
Yes, I'm just with Ericsson 3 here, and I can tell you something is going to happen here, because it's a bit less breeze down here, and the wind has lifted a bit. So the guys who have the bigger sails on, I think, will benefit big time towards the mark. So already now, I think Ericsson 3 will have passed at least Team Russia and Telefonica Black up the weather, because they will struggle to make it down to the mark with those sails, while Ericsson 3 have a bigger sail and can afford to sail a more open angle. So my bet is that the boats with the biggest sails will benefit big time on the last part here before the mark, because clearly they are ending up too high with the small sails.
Canute, we're on board with Ericsson 3, and the difference, we've just come off of Puma, the difference between the shots on those two boats is unbelievable. Puma, it looks like a freight train. There's water coming back, pouring back off the foredeck. They are just ripping along. Ericsson 3, well, they're making progress, but it certainly looks far more stately than what we've been seeing on Puma.
Many apologies for that exclamation. We just had our spines put through the top of our head here. We bounced off a wave, trying to keep up with Puma. And Lisa, for people listening, what sail is Puma have on there at the moment? Have you worked it out?
They've actually got a big mast at the moment, and it looks like they've still got their number 4 up underneath as a staysail inside, which actually at the moment is just on the edge of flogging, which means they're going really fast, and that will help them if they get a little bit too much breeze on the big sail. They've got that little one for control, as well as help boost them along a little bit faster. These conditions are pretty wild. They're filling up their big masthead sail at the moment on the Puma. It looks like they're getting ready for a manoeuvre here. So
Puma getting ready for the manoeuvre in front. The Ericsson boat beginning to look increasingly good shape behind them. Just how the fleet will unstagger when we come up to the mark. Canute, you're back with the rest of the fleet. We're kind of losing our perspective, if you like. What do you make of things back there alongside? Last time we heard was next to Ericsson 3.
Well, yeah, it's a bit difficult to hear you, Guy, but what I can see from here is that certainly Ericsson 3 is going to have a good run from here to the mark, but right now the breeze is picking up a bit again, so that could help the Russians and Telefonica Black. And Telefonica Black and Russians just had a little luffing duel there, and Telefonica Black ended up high up. But Puma went for a very conservative approach. They dropped the big sail very early to be sure to have everything okay for that rounding.
Well, we're just struggling to make out exactly. We might not be able to go too much further because we can't quite hear what's happening back there. Peter, I might just hand back to you for a second to let us know what's going on as far as the pictures are concerned at the moment.
Thanks, Guy. We're on the helicopter just looking at Puma. Canute, as you described, they've taken down the big sail, being fairly conservative here, and certainly their speed dropping significantly. We've got a great shot from in front of the fleet. We're looking back, and what we've got is Table Mountain in the background and a whole fleet of boats, including the spectator fleet, pouring down towards Puma. Canute, how close are they to the mark, and what's the next maneuver for them?
Well, Puma is very close to the mark. They went for an early drop and to have a good approach to the mark, so they kind of dropped the chute quite allured. And Puma is just rounding the mark now, actually. And they're going to come up, and obviously I assume that they're going to tack as soon as they get around the mark. So definitely you don't want to delay that one. The only thing is that Puma probably like to clear some of the other boats.
Yeah, we've got that now. We've seen Puma just rolling into attack. We've got a fantastic helicopter shot the big men on the handles grinding those sails around as they come up. They're just hard on the wind now, Canute, and I think we'll expect to see them coming into attack. We're on board now with Delta Lloyd, and Delta Lloyd still further back in the fleet and roaring down on what looks like a reasonably tight reach for these guys now, Canute.
It's going to be fantastic around this, Peter.
We've got all the way down there. We're going to struggle to get back.
Coming up, Puma were timed at 40 seconds round that mark. Ericsson 4 being chased down by Green Dragon at the moment, then the two then Team Russia and the two Telefonica boats. 4, have they got the right line in, or have Green Dragon got the right line in? Green coming at Ericsson 4 now. As if
well, Guy, we've got Ericsson just coming inside of Green Dragon as they start to turn up towards the wind. We're on a tight helicopter shot of the bow of the Ericsson boat. That's Ericsson 4 as they harden up on the wind. They're around the mark. You can see it just behind them now. Green Dragon just, well, not even a full boat length behind is the Green Dragon crew as they come up and round up, harden up onto the wind as they go by the mark. So we've had Puma, Ericsson 4, and Green Dragon around the mark now, and we're back on board with Ericsson 3. We can see the boats that have rounded the mark ahead of us off to the right, and we can see the next boat around. Well, it's going to be one of the Telefonica boats. It looks like it's Telefonica blue and black, and Team Russia is around just inside and tacking. So Team Russia, we can see their media crew member on the back of the boat, big Mark Cavell, trying to get all the shots in as Team Russia tacks around the mark. There's Telefonica blue rounding now, and behind them will be Delta Lloyd. Canute, where are you on the race course, and what are you seeing?
Well, hey, Peter, I'm just to the weather of the Ericsson 4 and the Green Dragon, and interestingly, Ericsson 4 is still keeping their Code Zero up there, furled, and it seems like Green Dragon at the moment is having very good pace on them. So I'm wondering why they do that, but it might be that Torben want to keep the conservative approach and keep that furled Code Zero up there all the way to get to the top mark. But that's going to be a lot of drag for him to carry. But right now, as I speak, he drops the sail and he realizes that he was losing some speed to Green Dragon and probably didn't want to take the chance. So now they all have the same setup. Most of them have the heavier jib on, so small head sail and full mainsail. Ericsson 4 is just tacking as I speak, and they will drop their Code Zero to weather. So Ericsson 4 is the first boat to tack of the leading pack, while they have now Team Russia and Telefonica Black to leeward of them.
Okay, well, we did see Team Russia tacking around the mark, and assume Telefonica Black did something similar. Up at the head of the fleet, it's still Puma Ocean Racing, with skipper Kenny Reed leading the fleet around that first mark in the wonderful sights of Table Bay. Just perfect conditions for racing here. The wind, well, it's a big variety of wind conditions out on the bay depending on where you are, but we do have about 15 knots across most of the bay. Although, Canute, it looks like it's still going to get a little bit patchy once they get out and really start to head out in earnest. Do they still have a light area that they need to go through? Well, it looks like we've lost Canute for the moment there. Here we are with the helicopter shot again of Green Dragon. You can see them hard on the wind, beating into the wind, and the guys working really hard here to keep this boat going. They had Ericsson 4 just in front of them. Ericsson 4 tacked off. The Green Dragon guys not yet doing that, although there's plenty of work on board. It looks like they might be getting ready for some kind of maneuver in the next moment or two. Puma Ocean Racing, well, there they are. They've just rolled into attack as they start to head out back towards the next turning mark, heading upwind, and you can see directly ahead of them there is Table Mountain. Fantastic sight.
We're alongside Telefonica Blue. I don't know, Peter, if you're getting us a little better yet.
Yeah, we are getting you. It's a little bit better. Still a little patchy, but better. So go ahead, Guy. Tell us what it looks like on Telefonica Blue.
Well, Telefonica Blue, following actually Team Russia. Lisa was very surprised with Team Russia's move immediately after that mark.
Well, I can see that they were first attack away and probably clear their air as they came in behind a couple of boats at that mark. It's quite exciting now. We've got the feet splitting a bit tacking up here back towards the beach to find the best approach to the next mark.
Now, you immediately said when we were on board that you thought there'd be some breeze on the land side of this racetrack, and that's exactly where Puma have headed.
Exactly, I can see them now. It's a little bit reminiscent of the last import race that we had in the last Volvo Ocean Race, although much wind. It came this direction right off the beach and did continuously through the afternoon. Puma look like they've got a fantastic line now going. And it'll be interesting to see. We're just alongside Ericsson 4 here, and it'll be interesting to see where they are when they come back to meet.
Well, around that mark, it really was fascinating watching Green Dragon and Ericsson 4 there. I've been handed some deltas. So, Puma were round in 10 minutes and 40 seconds, then 1 minute and 5 seconds later, Ericsson 4. 9 seconds later, Green Dragon. Then a further 21 seconds to Team Russia. 15 seconds to Telefonica Black. 10 more seconds to Telefonica Blue. 8 seconds to Ericsson 3. Had a bit of a gap. It was another 1 minute 55, 2 minutes and 7 seconds back to Delta Lloyd. Lisa just on the shoulder. I'm not sure it's because she was falling into me or she's seen something.
A bit of both. It's really bumpy out here, and I think everyone will be hanging on to their hats. I sort of comment that we've got Delta Lloyd now around the first mark, so we've got the whole fleet now coming back up towards the beach, and hopefully Delta Lloyd will have sorted out whatever their initial hiccups were, coming down and have a bit of a restart with the rest of the fleet, although in this much breeze, once we've got to separate, a bit chicken. But it contains Table Mountain.
Absolutely right, as Lisa has been continuing to tell us, just do change around Table Mountain. Good shape here, but things very different there. Canute, out on the course, where are you? Do we have Canute, Peter?
I don't think we do right now,
He's
Guy.
probably gone into that little black spot that we were in earlier as well. Puma continuing to hug the coastline as we look behind us, and Lisa is absolutely right. This is a completely split fleet at the moment, staying out on that coastline of Green Dragon. They this time have stayed with Puma. Ericsson 4 are now in the middle, you would say, probably of the racecourse, right hand side of the middle of the racecourse. Team Russia are way out on the right hand side of the racecourse with Telefonica Blue back then behind us. We can see Telefonica Black, Ericsson 3, and just about Delta Lloyd. So that is the positions you guess at the moment. The difficult one to tell really is who out of Ericsson 4 and Green Dragon has made the best run here. Puma, you would still say, are leading despite this enormous split in the fleet, and there are, well, it's a matter of miles now, but have Puma come back towards us? Lisa, have you come back towards us?
Puma's still actually trekking along the beach at the moment. Just having a little because I've counted almost as many helicopters as there are race crews. So it looks like each one has almost got their own little helicopter following them along the course. And also to add to the skyline, we've got all the kite surfers up on the northern beach near Milnerton, which is actually quite good for its kite surfing. So that means it's a good day for the breeze on Table Bay.
So we have every kind of sail up as we look towards us across to the coastline here. Lisa's absolutely right. There are kite surfers everywhere that we can see at the moment as we head back towards Cape Town.
Guy, we're on a fantastic helicopter shot right now of the race leader Puma just heading directly towards Table Mountain. A moment ago we had those kite surfers you're describing, a few kites in the shot, and we did have a brand new shot off the boat from the spreader camera looking down on deck, which was really outstanding as well. A really, really nice picture. I should just say, if you're a fan of teams like either of the Telefonica teams, we're not trying to exclude them from the broadcast. We're just not getting images off of those boats. The same with Green Dragon. Team Russia has been coming in and out, so we are using the pictures that we're getting, but we're not trying to exclude anybody. We're just not getting the shots off of all the boats that we would like. But we're on board with Puma Ocean Racing right now. We've got a helicopter following close behind them, and a great shot of the guys packed up tight on the weather rail near the back of the boat as they beat up wind through these waves heading back towards Cape Town, Guy.
Puma, an extraordinary sight. There are so many ribs following Puma out back to Cape Town after we've gone up to our mark before we head out to sea here. Ericsson had enough of being tied together with Puma. Team Russia, have Team Russia decided that they've had, yes, I think Team Russia are now coming back. They are coming back, Team Russia making their move now. Ericsson, though, continues. Has been up top, which I have to say is very brave on this rather small, bouncy fishing vessel that we find ourselves on at the moment. And what did you see, Lisa?
Well, there is a fly bridge up there, but it's a bit of a wet fly bridge at the moment. I was just thinking about the sea stays out here. We've got this very small chop right now, and I was just thinking once they get out around the corner tonight, going down south of the Cape of Good Hope, they're going to come across the Agulhas Current. Now that's actually the meeting of two very wild currents, one running north and one running south, and the seas there can be absolutely horrendous. So let's hope that they settle in well tonight as they get down towards the Cape and don't have too much wind over those currents, because that will be about 5 to 10 times what it is here in the bay today.
5 or 10 times what's in the bay today. Well, we're talking some very serious sailing, and if you want to catch up with all the serious sailing on the leg to Cochin, remember...
Guy, I'm just going to interrupt you here. It looks like we have a pretty close cross with Team Russia and Ericsson 3. Is that what you're seeing on the water?
Yeah,
from our stern camera, very close. The Russians just crossing ahead. Ericsson 3 actually needing to dip a little bit to duck in behind them on port tack there.
You're absolutely right. You get such a strange angle from out on the water, but it was very close indeed. Team Russia, who looked in passably much better shape than we thought, but you're absolutely right. Just having one of those virtual match racing moments with Ericsson 3 out on the water at the moment. Puma, we're running alongside them at the moment. If you could put some money, Lisa, on where you think the fleet is at the moment. Puma first, Ericsson 4 second.
Well, I must admit, I haven't actually seen where. I haven't got a vision on our next mark. I've just noticed that Puma's actually, we're quite close to Puma at the moment. They do have quite a good angle, but I can't quite see behind. We've got a very large, lovely large spectator boat here, and I it does relatively in, so I'm not quite sure how close Ericsson Puma will be up here.
Okay, Guy, I think we've just lost you a little bit. Lisa breaking up fairly significantly there. We're with Ericsson 4 here with a fantastic shot, the top of their sail as they race back towards Cape Town and directly back towards the harbour. That's going to be their next turning mark. Then they'll be free to go out. They leave Robben Island on their starboard side, and beyond that, the race is on for Cochin, India. But a great shot there of Ericsson 4 racing along, and we think they are in second place just behind Puma, maybe a minute or so behind them. And then I think it gets a lot closer after that, but Green Dragon is certainly in the mix up there. Very Guy, do we have you with us again now?
Yes, we had to go past an enormous ship, and that effectively meant that we could get the signal at all. Team Russia attacked again back to that right-hand side of the course. It's going to be interesting to see how that leaves them. But we have Puma, Ericsson 4. You're right, Green Dragon are going to be in the mix as well, but certainly a distance behind Puma. It's just how well Puma have this next key moment in the race. We're actually going to have to just put the brakes on slightly so we don't impede their progress. But a super picture of Puma as far as we're concerned. I'm sorry, there are moments when we get an absolutely privileged view of racing alongside Puma, seeing the work done in the bow, and Henry driving quite happily at the moment. It does look as if Puma are in the lead, and just really, who got it right, Torben or Ken, on this particular part of the race?
Well, we've got a nice shot here again of Ericsson 4. If you're following it on .tv, you can see Ericsson 4. Probably the most impressive thing you can see is the bulb of their keel just visible under the water. It's maybe a meter under the water off the port side of the boat, the windward side of the boat, and that is really a spectacular image to see. Knut, I'm going to throw it out to you. I don't know if you're there with us, but if you are, let us know where you are on the race course and what you're seeing.
Yeah, Peter, I'm with you. I'm just behind Puma, just the weather of Puma. So we are actually driving straight to the mark, and Puma is not going to lay the first mark. So not the first, but the second mark now. So they will have to tack to get further close to the beach to get around that mark. But still, Puma is way ahead, and I will say that they have even stretched the lead a bit compared to the other guys. So looking pretty good from here.
Okay, Knut, what would you attribute that lead to? Are they just pushing a little bit harder? Are the other guys being more conservative? How have they been able to first build the lead and then extend it? Okay, well, I think we've lost Knut for a second. We are on board with Ericsson 3. We don't have cameras functioning or getting a signal back from Ericsson 4 right now. But on board Ericsson 3, we've just switched to that camera on their mast, looking back into the cockpit as you can see the guys making preparations as they're coming up to the second mark of the race course here. Ericsson 3 back in the middle of the pack, but there's your race leader. There's a helicopter shot of Puma, and you can see all of the boats following Puma Ocean Racing as they approach that next mark. They, as Knut said, doesn't look like they're going to be able to lay that mark. They may need to tack. And just in behind them already, it looks like well positioned to windward. You can see those spectator fleets, and just an enormous crowd of boats trying to keep pace with Puma Ocean Racing there as they streak along in front of the beach, heading back towards Cape Town. Guy?
We're now blasting towards that mark. We've just overtaken Puma for the first time this afternoon, because Puma really have been flying. So we're just trying to get down to the mark to give you a better idea of who and when is got running second mark. At the moment it does look as if Puma set an awful lot of wash, and I have to say we created quite a bit of it for them to come across. Looking away, Green Dragon are further behind. They've stayed out on that coastal side. Just seeing to see where Ericsson 4 are at the moment as well. Just picked them up. So now the race is on for this mark. I think we're still looking around for it. We think it's...
Okay, guys.
So no, we're still just trying to work out exactly where the boats are heading for. So, but when we do, we'll let you know, Peter.
Okay, well, I think we're about to watch Puma roll into attack. Everyone's back in the cockpit. The handles are turning. There they go. As Knut adeptly pointed out, they aren't going to lay that mark. They've tacked now, and they must be getting close, Guy and Lisa. I would expect they're not very far away as they roll into that tack and try and consolidate their position. They've led since the very beginning. An outstanding start. Great timing by the navigator Andrew Cape and skipper Kenny Reed there. They started... well, they were first across the line, and within moments they had that enormous Jenniker unfurled and really just streaked away from that point on. And they've just extended away ever since the start of the race and opened up a pretty healthy lead, or certainly that's the way it looks on the pictures we're getting, Guy.
I think, well, out on the course as well, Peter, I have to say, what's going to be interesting is Green Dragon hung out in the hope of getting some more of the coastal breeze. And interesting to see how they...
Hey Guy,
that's worked.
Knut,
yes.
Yeah, I'm just in front of Puma and pointing at the mark, and I will tell you that Puma is just going to point just below the mark on the beach, which means that Ericsson 4, who has gone to the outside of that big ship, must have gone too far in my view. I think Ericsson 4 is taking a risk there, because if the breeze turns any right, Puma's going to lay and Ericsson 4 is going to be way outside the ley line. But things can happen, but Puma to me is looking pretty good for a nice ley line to the mark. So that's the picture for you. So straight in front of Puma you'll find the mark.
Thanks very much, Knut. We just lost you slightly out here on the water towards the end of that Puma, though, still looking in remarkably good shape. Ericsson 4, yes, where are they? Green Dragon? Well, let's just wait for the mark and find out. But it has been a terrific race already here out of Cape Town. You mentioned, Peter, the spectator fleet. Well, we're coming back towards some of the boats that couldn't keep up, of course, with the leaders as they sped off for the beginning of it. So now we're catching up with some of the other spectator fleet that have come out here to say goodbye to the boats.
Yeah, hey Guy, I'm just with Puma again, and again it's very clear now that Ericsson 4 clearly made a mistake by going around that ship, because they have ended up way too far to weather, and they'll have to reach down actually to get to the mark, while Puma will probably lay very easily now the mark and tack around the mark and head towards the Cape. So I think if Ericsson 4 would have lost a bit doing that, but still they will probably beat top 3 pretty easily. And Green Dragon obviously is getting close to the beach and will have to tack soon.
Okay, well, let's find out what happens. Lisa, of course, mentioned that one of the main problems of sailing around here is it is an incredibly busy seaway. It is the real point of trade as far as Southern Africa is concerned, is Cape Town, and there are all manner, it's not just the competitors you have to worry about when you're sailing here, but everything else as well. We're now at the mark, pretty much, so we'll have an ideal view, and it does look as if Puma are going to be first to the mark. Perhaps no surprise there, but really what we're looking out to find out is where the rest of the fleet are going to be when we round this mark. We're probably, I should think, Peter, a good still 3 or 4 minutes away from Puma reaching the mark, but we'll be keeping an eye on things for you. Set very near the coastline, so we've actually got spectators along the beach keeping an eye on what's going on as well. So really have brought this race to the people. Now, of course, import race here in Cape Town this time, but this very much the next best thing for those people spending their Saturday afternoons on the glorious beaches here. They can the Volvo 70s scream past them to just help add to that picnic feeling as they're sitting watching the boats go past. So Puma in perfect shape.
Hey Guy,
I'm intrigued to know what Green Dragon have done. Yes, back to you out there on the course, Canute.
Yeah, I'm just at the mark, and Puma is not laying. They have probably three or two boat lengths on port tack before the mark, and that's what you would say is a perfect rounding, because they're going to want to hoist the bigger sail very soon after that rounding, and obviously you don't want to have too much of a stress in attack and having to hoist at the same time, or they might wait with that hoist because they're still going to be fast with a jib for a while reaching. But Puma probably have, I would say, maybe four boat lengths on port tack after the tack, and then to go around the mark. Well, as I said, Ericsson 4 probably went a bit too far, and Ericsson 4 is pointing at the mark but going very fast, so they're probably the fastest boat out there at the moment.
Yeah, Canute, we've just had a helicopter shot, and we're on it right now, that illustrates that absolutely perfectly. Puma Ocean Racing hard on the wind, but looming just to windward and behind them, well, that's Ericsson 4, and they are absolutely ripping down towards that mark. So they are sailing very hot and very fast right now, Canute.
They certainly are. We've got a great view of that out here as well, Peter. We can just watch Ericsson 4. We're between the mark and Ericsson 4 at the moment, and they are screaming into the mark, but they're still going to be a long way behind Puma, Canute.
Yeah, I'm just now at the mark, and it's a bit disappointing with all the spectators not respecting 100% that the guys are going to round the mark. But so it's a bit of a too many spectators close to the mark there. But Puma is, as I said, having only 2 boat lengths after the tack, and then they'll get around the mark and have a good, healthy lead. I'm a bit disappointed by Green Dragon. They seem to have lost a lot going into the shore early, and certainly they are far behind E4. So that wasn't very good for them. And now Puma is tacking, and they have 2 boat lengths to the mark. It seems like they're going to keep the same sail setup after the rounding, so they all have, they're going to have the same heavier jib on. They'll crank off and move to the outboard sheet position, and they'll probably speed up by at least 5-6 knots after that rounding.
Canute, how many degrees are they going to be able to ease off or bear off here as they go around the mark?
Just see Canute being taken away at speed from the mark, Peter, so I'm not sure he caught your final question. As his rib really kicked on, and we have to put our hammer down as well to get out of Puma's way. Suddenly Puma going like an express train behind us, and absolutely blasting past.
Yeah, Puma just
perfect turn, Lisa was saying, perfect turn.
Actually hairpin, but yes, it was a perfect hairpin turn. No, I was just watching these guys come into this mark. It is a bit of a hairpin turnaround here. Watching Ericsson 4 lining up for this mark, and this last leg has really been their opportunity for some overtaking if they were close enough and played the shifts well enough. But this leg now coming up to the final mark just beyond the port will probably be much more of a procession. So I think we'll see the lineup here before leaving us in Table Bay very soon.
So Puma first. Canute, are you still at the mark watching Ericsson 4 come round? We've lost Canute for a second. We can watch Ericsson 4 come round.
Well, there they go, guys, just rolling into attack now.
But your commentary teams are next to each other out on the water here, Peter. Ericsson 4 around the mark. Our second boat round. As Canute said, will Green Dragon hold on to third? Their gamble to stay by the coast, has it paid off? Or are there some better angles to be found into this mark? Telefonica Blue look as if they've had a very, very good run indeed. And look as if they will cross in front of Green Dragon. Yep, they will be crossing, and Telefonica Blue in very good shape. And it could be Telefonica Blue and Bauer Becking who have made up a lot of ground on that particular run and moved up to third. It does look out there. We've got Telefonica Black and Ericsson 3 also in the mix as well, but if Telefonica Blue have laid this up right, they are going to be third.
That's certainly how it looks from here, Guy, as they make their final approach towards that mark. It's a great job by Bauer Becking and his men. One of the few boats to make absolutely no crew substitutions here for the second leg to Cochin. As Bauer Becking's team, there they go. They're just passing the mark now, about to roll into attack. There it is. And third place around that mark for Telefonica Blue, and that is a big gain for Bauer Becking and his guys.
That will be a huge lift, because there were a few complaints that perhaps they weren't quite as good in the 15 to 25 knots as they should be. Well, they're the third best in the 15 to 25 knots that we've had this afternoon, and here come Green Dragon round in fourth place. So Green Dragon just slipping back a place in the pecking order from the first mark, but they're comfortably round in fourth place. And again, that one
Guy, I've got to break in here. We've got Ericsson 3, a great shot of it. Not good news for Ericsson 3, though. Their head sail on that tack, it's been caught up with the radar on the mast. It's torn what looks like a radar dome off, and it's torn the sail apart too. Their head sail just flogging, but the leech of the sail, the back edge of the sail, still caught up on the mast. It looks like they're going to tack back to try and get it off.
Have just crunched through past Telefonica Black. Where did they come from? Extraordinary manoeuvre from Russia. You're absolutely right. Ericsson 3 looked as if they, for all the world, as if they were going to be fifth past. Instead, Team Russia and Telefonica Black from opposite sides of the racecourse. A real ding-dong battle, and a terrific manoeuvre by Team Russia has put them in fifth place ahead of Telefonica Black in sixth, and poor old Ericsson 3 in trouble.
Yeah, Ericsson 3 in big trouble. We're back on a helicopter shot now of Team Russia, as you described them, just ripping along there, but the real ripping unfortunately going on board Ericsson 3. Anders Luander and his crew that lead to that head sail.
Black smoking past Team Russia right in front of us. Team Russia had the temerity to go round the mark ahead of Telefonica Black, and Telefonica Black taking revenge and absolutely smoking them out on the water here.
Hey Guy, this is Knut here. We're just on the stern of Ericsson 4, and we're sitting on 20-25 knots, and we're struggling to keep up with them. So certainly doing great speeds. This is exactly what the Volvo Open 70s are made for, power reaching.
I'm just going to check in with you, Peter. Right, we've gone round 2 marks. How long do you want us to stay out on the water?
Well, let's keep going until the audio starts to fade, Guy. We're having some great action here, so let's keep it up. And as soon as we start to break up, we'll call it off. We're looking
Ericsson's 3 around the mark.
We're looking at Telefonica Black and Team Russia, as you described. There's not much between them, but boy, Telefonica Black looking really strong there to weather.
Hey, Guy, can you hear me? This is Knut, over.
Knut, yes I can.
Yeah, it looks like just ahead of Puma. I'm right with Ericsson 4, and just ahead of Puma, the breeze is dropping off. So we could be looking for a little compression here of the fleet, and that's quite normal here in Cape Town. You have the strong breeze right in the bay, and then when you get a bit further out, then suddenly the breeze drops right off a bit. So certainly Puma is more upright right now, and I think you'll find that Ericsson 4 would be catching up a bit.
Well, we're watching a terrific battle further back between 5th and 6th, between Team Russia and Telefonica Black, neck and neck. Telefonica Black just got their noses in front, just to run through the deltas very quickly. E4 to Puma was 1 minute and 45 seconds. Then back to Telefonica Blue was 1 minute and 10 seconds. Green Dragon were 40 seconds further back.
Hey,
Russia after that.
Hey, Guy, this is
yes,
Knut.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm just with Puma, and Puma just lost all the wind and are parked right up. They have hardly any breeze. They are full upright, and they are going slowly forward. And it looks like there's a complete different breeze there, and this is typical Cape Town conditions. You have a massive wind shift right at this point, and the breeze dropping right off, and they're getting headed, and they're upwind. And I would say Puma is down to hardly any boat speed, and Ericsson 4 is storming up behind them. And probably in a few seconds, Ericsson 4 will head into the same wind hole and will slow down. But right now, you'll find that Ericsson 4 is just catching up all the distance between them, and there's frantic work on the foredeck trying to get to a bigger head sail, because obviously they have all the wrong sail up, and they would like to go to a bigger, more powerful sail right away. So again, typical Cape Town conditions. Everything stops right at this point, and that's happened many times before.
Well, Knut, we're in the big tower, the Harbour Master's office, just overlooking all of this. Puma is right in front of us. We've been on board with them just a moment ago with our cameras, and yeah, you are completely right, absolutely upright. A lot of frustration on the faces of the guys as they try to tickle a little bit more speed out of that big Il Mostro, those huge sails, but they really just can't do it. And we can see Ericsson 4, the whole fleet still charging up. So
well, yeah,
it's been an exciting hour.
The fleet charging up, and it was funny. Lisa said to me, "Well, it's going to be a bit of a procession now." Always get proved wrong at Cape Town. Puma looks as if they were smoking out of sight. We could barely see them. And we're alongside Team Russia and Telefonica Black, and Puma coming right back into view. It's a fabulous view as well. We can see the new football stadium that they're building at Green Point for the 2010 World Cup. That, I'm guessing, is pretty much where Puma are parked up on Green Point as they head off towards, after that, to Sea Point, and out from there. Team Russia having a ding-dong battle here with Telefonica Black. Absolutely fantastic. What you do realise, though, is if the wind is really falling out in front of them, then they don't really need to do this, but it's fantastic to watch as we all catch up. The compression of the fleet's extraordinary.
Yeah, hey Guy, this is Knut there. I'm just a lord of Ericsson 4, and as I said, this is typical Cape Town, no wind at this point. And what is interesting to me is that the fleet behind them, who had the opportunity to see the two front guys parking, the fleet has really been hiking up behind them, and normally you would think they would do the opposite, that use the breeze to come down and have some more space to get around the mark. But you will see that the code zeros are just being hoisted now. Ericsson 4 got the code zero up, Puma got the code zero up, and they're just about to get it ready to unfurl and have the biggest possible sail they can for these light air conditions.
Knut, I don't know if you can see it but where we are, it looks as if Telefonica Blue and Green Dragon have spotted the park up and are trying to get some breeze nearer the coast. Would that make sense?
Well, yes, you're right, and they will find breeze closer to the coast. The problem is they'll have to work themselves down to the mark, and as there's no wind at the mark, you would like to have a best possible angle getting to that mark instead of having to run downwind to get to the mark. So I'm not sure if that's going to be like a short-term gain with a long-term loss, I think. normally that will make you look very good right now, but I think they're going to struggle to work it down, looking at how little breeze Puma has, because now Puma has parked right up, they're hardly moving. No, Ericsson 4 got their code 0 filled nicely and starting to slowly move.
No, Canute, we're on board with Puma with the stern camera, and absolutely nothing happening on board Puma Ocean Racing right now. What frustration, because the boom just hanging in the middle of the boat, the head sail really just flogging. It looks like they might just be picking something up now, but certainly Skipper Kenny Reid not very happy.
No, I tell you, Peter, it also looks like the Zero they have furled up on the front has unfurled itself a little bit, and that's not a good sign. They might be struggling to actually unfurl the sail. So I think they have a little cock up there on the hoist, because certainly the middle of the leech is flopping, and that's normally something you don't want to see. But they have time to fix it, because no one is going anywhere in a hurry here.
Well, out here, Lisa's just spotted the breeze line, Canute, and you can actually see the breeze line behind us now, which is extraordinary, where the boats literally hit the wall. Now we've got Green Dragon have stopped. Telefonica Blue pretty much have stopped. Telefonica Black are still coming with the edge of the breeze. But Team Russia have still got a little bit of something, but like you were suggesting, by going into the coast, perhaps we'll lose out.
Yeah, I mean,
we've caught you up. It was amazing. We were 2 miles behind, and now the boats are virtually together.
And I think, Guy, this is, as I said, this typical Cape Town, and what happens here is that Puma might have lost a lot of distance, but I tell you, if they get out of this breeze with or this no breeze with this distance, they will stretch that very, very far. So really now the whole game here is whoever finds the breeze first after this rounding is going to make a great gain. And I think you will find that Telefonica and Russia, who went all the way into land there, will struggle to get down here. But who knows, they might find some breeze really close to the beach, but at the moment I think they're struggling.
So the other problem, Canute, now is, of course, the spectator fleet have caught completely up. So when they do get going again, they've got to move through this armada of boats in front of them.
Yes, you're right, Guy. I mean, we've been struggling with the spectators here today, unfortunately, and that's disappointing. But at least now we don't have much breeze, so they should have time to move. And I don't think we will find the breeze filling in here. The boats and the teams will have to work themselves through this light area and really work as hard as they can to get out of it. And it's typical, and it's just classical for Cape Town. And you'll see the light area is actually stretching quite far offshore. It's not much breeze offshore, but I'm looking at a small sailboat outside the whole spectator fleet, actually sailing on starboard tack and heading towards Cape. So it could be that we have a breeze from the opposite direction out there.
Lisa's up on the fly bridge of our boat to see whether she can spot any wind breeze anywhere else. But at the moment, we are parked up here with Puma still holding on to a small lead. Team Russia and Telefonica Blue almost drifting into each other. Green Dragon, you would say, probably third. Ericsson 4, desperate to try and find any breeze at all, but all the sails just flogging here around us. And from screaming along at 26 knots at one stage, we had it timed.
Hey guy, this is Knut breaking in here. As I said, I saw this sailboat sailing on starboard tack, and right now Puma is getting the breeze from the opposite direction. And they just got the breeze from the other side, and they're now on starboard tack and have tack basically. So Puma is certainly the first boat to get this new breeze, and that's the breeze they will have from here on for quite a while. So this is really the transition zone between two completely different winds, and that's why I think what Telefonica Blue and the Russians did is so dangerous, because they put themselves in a very tricky position when the breeze fills in from the other side.
Canute, you were talking earlier about Puma having trouble with what looks like maybe their code 0 or whatever, a big head sail is furled up. We've been watching from a spreader camera the bowman Casey Smith getting some help from some of his other crewmates. They're really working hard on that sail. Can you get up close enough to see if there's a problem there? Because it doesn't look like they can unfurl that sail right now.
No, you're right, Peter. I'm right behind them, and they certainly cannot unfurl that. The problem they have is that the sail have started to unfurl itself, and when that happens and you don't follow with the bottom, it's really, really hopeless. So they will have to take that sail down, and I think they're just dropping it now to try to clear the bottom of it, and then they'll be just sailing with a jib until that's all clear. But that's disappointing for them, obviously. But they certainly have the new breeze now filling in from the opposite side. And I think the boat that is making the interesting move at the moment is actually Delta Lloyd. because Delta Lloyd has chosen what I think would be the right thing to do to get to leeward of the whole fleet, and they might have a very good position when the breeze fills in from the other side. So I think watch Delta Lloyd for the next couple of minutes. We might see some passing going on here.
Yeah, Delta Lloyd to leeward of the fleet right now, but when they get into that new breeze and are on starboard tack, they'll be to windward. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Delta Lloyd is just to leeward of E3 here now, and slowly catching them, and I think they have definitely made the best move by all here. Telefonica Black, I don't know what they are up to, but they just dropped the sails, have no head sail, and they're sitting there without even, looks like they're not even trying. But interesting, you'll see that the Russians have now caught the new breeze as well. In fact, the whole fleet has caught the new breeze, and as soon as E3 finds the new breeze and Delta Lloyd finds them, they will be the weather boats. But and this is a typical Cape Town start when this breeze fills in, and you'll find the fleet tacking pretty close to the shore, because quite often the breeze is stronger close to the shore. However, interestingly, Puma decided to tack there and head offshore, so they might want to get away from the spectator fleet, and obviously at some stage you have to tack to get off the beach.
Now, Lisa was just saying the sea breeze is filling in a bit here. We can see, well, Ericsson 4 is certainly moving again.
Yeah, Guy, we've got from the tower here, we've got Ericsson 4 and Green Dragon certainly starting to pick up the pace.
And Team Russia, if they haven't gone too far to the coast, is going to be the interesting one. And did Puma tack too early there, Knut, or should they, or have they done the right thing?
Well, my view is that they probably tacked a bit early. I mean, in general, when you hike along the coast here from Cape Town, you always kind of settle around the coast and just stay close to the coast, and you have a really good pressure there. So, looking at E4 with a big code 0 on starboard tack there, if I could choose, I would probably follow them. But the big question is what is happening a couple of miles outside this, because it could be a new park up, and I will never forget 1997 when Swedish Match in the start here headed exactly the same direction as Puma is heading now, opposite to where you would like to go, basically towards South America, and the whole fleet parked, and they caught the southerly winds before everybody and hiked around the fleet. So Cape Town, you never really know. It's always a very exciting start strategically.
Well, Lisa's just been doing a bit of sail comparison, and different ones everywhere. Everyone seems to have different theories, Lisa.
A bit of sail spotting, Guy. I must admit, it's so patchy and so, just so crazy right here. It's fantastic. I mean, it's all changing direction. There are boats pointing every which way and have so many different sails out. Some guys have gone for the smaller sails, some guys have gone for the big sails, the big Jenicas, and I can see them tacking now. Russia's just tacked out. They were right along the beach there. There's actually a big glass off. There's no wind at all along the stadium coast right now, and there are patches that are coming down from this breeze behind us. As well, it looks like the sea breeze is starting to fill in a little bit, coming in off the sea. So I think it's still all to play for right here and now under Table Mountain.
As always, well, last time, of course, we had that complete park up for the boats when absolutely nothing happened, and they were actually drifting into each other.
We have a port starboard here, Guy, with Telefonica Black in Russia, and Team Russia just had to duck the stern of
okay. Oh yes, Black. Here we go. Right next to us. Are you there as well, Knut?
Yeah, and I think really the Telefonica Black here is sailing with a 2 big sail. I mean, that code 0 they're having up there is a light air code 0, not made for sailing upwind, and they're really struggling with that sail. And now we will see, I think E3 is just getting the breeze, and they have a proper code 0 for sailing upwind, and will do really well here. So a lot of different sail combinations, and a lot of boats losing big time because of having to make maneuvers with too much sail up, and sails that are not really made for tacking. But E3 is certainly passing clearly ahead of Team Russia, and I think you'll find Delta Lloyd as well will probably pass Team Russia. Delta Lloyd probably had the most conservative approach and have been sitting nicely with a jib the whole time here, which could be a good thing to do, you know, because you can lose a lot playing with all these sails, and you can gain, but if you don't make it work, it's worse.
Well, Team Russia are rearranging their sails once again in an effort to try and pick up some breeze, but you're right, it looks as if they will cross behind Delta Lloyd. So Delta Lloyd have just really enjoyed this park up. You feel sorry for Puma, who blazed such a magnificent path away from the start line and then absolutely hit this brick wall. Delta Lloyd, whose start they know could have been better, are right back in the mix again. Ericsson 3 also now easing towards the rest of the fleet. They and Delta Lloyd, if anything, look as if they might have picked the right path, if there is such a thing, through this light stuff at the moment. Green Dragon have decided to follow Puma away from the coast for a bit, but Lisa's right, you look next to the shore and no waves at all back that way, so for once certainly not worth getting on the shoreline as far as as far as Cape Town is concerned. But a great view of that half-constructed soccer stadium that's being built for the World Cup. We have a small standoff ourselves with a boat going in an interesting direction who's decided to go home. We have rather strong language, so apologies for any small children listening. Maybe we should go back to you, Peter, for a second.
Well, we're on board here with Puma Ocean Racing. It looks like they might be rolling into another tack here, guys. We're on a mast cam looking backwards, and indeed they are tacking to run parallel to the coast again. So it looks like they're heading back to run. I think they'll be parallel to the coast after this tack, after they finish this maneuver. But very, very light. It's a really slow tack on board, and you can see the guys working away to try and get the sails filled as quickly as possible, but it's really a big ask. It's still very, very, very light out where Puma Ocean Racing is.
Canute, are you anywhere near Ericsson 4?
Yeah, in fact I'm right behind Ericsson 4, and I would say that's the boat to watch at the moment. They are really, really sailing well. They have nice pressure, and they haven't really tried to do too many maneuvers and just sit nice and easy and work the breeze. And if you look at the small boats up ahead and to weather, it's like small cruising boats, and the golden rule among sailors is that if you see a small sailboat sailing really fast, you know it's a good sign, or high. But if there's, you know, that these guys are really important to watch, because they give you a good signal of what's to happen. And to me it looks like that small sailboat up in front of the fleet have good breeze, so I think E4 is just sitting there and living the breeze they have, while Puma has lost heaps on that tack they made out on the right side there. They're sitting lime duck at the moment and not really moving.
Well, I've just seen one of the most extraordinary sights ever. There's a guy on his sailboard with a paddle, and he's going faster than Ericsson 3 at the moment. So,
Ericsson 3 is just in the shadow of Green Dragon actually, and struggling to get out of it, and they're just outside the breeze. You can see that the breeze line just boat length the weather of Ericsson 3, so you have to play the local stuff here, and Green Dragon just started to get the same breeze as E4 now.
It is. Green Dragon have certainly picking up. We can feel that now as we actually have to go faster. We get an idea of knots at the moment. Where are we? We're around 9-10 knots, so there is definitely a bit of a breeze filling in, and you have to say that at the moment, Canute, it looks as if the winners of this whole particular movement have been Ericsson 4, and Torben Grail once again working his magic in those light airs.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And but as you see, Ericsson 4 has just started to be more upright, and I think they actually lost some of the pressure they had before. Looking at the water, you can see that it's much more glossy right here and right around them, and that's a sign that the breeze has really dropped here again. So, but there's not a major change in the wind here. But important thing is here, this race has been won and lost right in this area before, this leg. Obviously now they're going north to India, so it's very different. But to get out to Cape Town first, you'll stretch so many miles on the fleet behind you. And I know there's a bit of nervousness on board the teams here, because they all know this. And if you get stuck behind too early, you might suffer for days after this.
Well, Canute, I can tell you we're up here in this Harbour Masters Tower. That's got to be, we're on the 11th floor, so we're a long ways up. We can see out over the bay quite well from here. And I can tell you it is very, very patchy, pretty much for as far as you can see. There are little areas of wind, little areas of pressure, but there's plenty of spots out there where it looks like it's going to be very light. So I think this nerve-wracking stuff is going to continue for a while yet.
I think you're right, Peter. We're watching some smoke come off one of the ships out here in the harbour, and the smoke barely moving at all. So there are little patches of no breeze. Puma look as if they've picked up a little something now. Out where they are. We're just going past Green Dragon, but if you were looking for a 1, 2, 3 at the moment, it would be Ericsson 4, then nothing much between Puma and Green Dragon in second and third. Telefonica Blue well, have certainly hugged the coastline at the moment, and Black has now... Sorry, Lisa, you've spotted Telefonica Black.
Yeah, I'm right with Black.
Coming back away from the coast, and they'll be very close with Telefonica Blue. I thought perhaps if they had a gust of breeze they might actually cross them, but it looks like Telefonica Blue is still in front of Telefonica Black.
And Canute, you're there as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm right with between Black and Blue now, actually. So, and I think Black went too close to the coast. It's dangerous when you get that close to the buildings because the breeze is going to lift off right there, and it's kind of a handbrake on the whole wind. So they certainly went too close, but it's a good show for the spectators. Quite a few people on shore there watching us, so that's good for them. But Black is not looking flash right now, actually pointing away from where they want to go and trying to fill that big code zero.
Well, we're just coming up to Mooley Point now, the beach with the little lighthouse. As you begin to unwind out of Cape Town. I'm just looking around. It is filling in slightly. Green Dragon are moving, as are Puma. Just looking ahead at Ericsson 4, and it does look as if Ericsson 4 might be slowing a touch.
Yeah, Guy, from up here it does look like the pressure is such that it is, but the little bit amount of wind that there is going to be further offshore. That's what it looks like from up here. It looks very, very patchy and close to the shore. A little bit more consistent further out, but that's only relatively speaking. It still looks pretty light out there.
So out here on the water, we're now just moving closer to Ericsson 4, our current leaders. We can see Puma and Green Dragon. The Telefonica boats, well, certainly Blue came out the best of that particular manoeuvre. Ericsson Black, Telefonica Black at the moment trying to get themselves going again. Delta Lloyd perhaps didn't make as big a move as perhaps they might have done. At one stage it looked as if they would do. And Ericsson 3 remain ahead of them. I'm just trying to see where Team Russia have got to.
Well, Guy, I can see Team Russia, and I don't know how they've done it, but they've fallen off the back of the fleet, assuming that I am looking at them. I think I am. They're a fair distance off, but they're just fallen off the back of the fleet. They did tack to get out a little bit further. They've tacked back. They're going parallel to the coastline, but they are a good distance behind now.
Yeah, we think we've found them, and you're right, that we do appear to be a long way behind the rest of the fleet now, in a desperate search for breeze outside the spectator boats.
Yeah, hey, this is Knutter. I mean, Team Russia actually sailed back into the old breeze instead of trying to get to the new one. So they went back into the old breeze, and for a while here they had the opposite wind direction again from the others, which is obviously going to set you back big time, because you need to work yourself through this light air area, and I think they have to do that again now.
Yeah, well, that's certainly what it looks like. They seem to be really, really struggling. Puma, from my eye here, Puma does seem to possibly be picking up a little bit more now, or certainly they're in the area where the water looks darkest, as well as Ericsson 4 continuing to beat that path out on starboard tack. It looks like those are the two boats that really have a chance of making a bit of a move now.
The smoke on the ship next to Puma is also moving again, so I think you could be right, Peter. So, well, a little bit of breeze perhaps for Puma. Lisa, what have you spotted?
Can actually see a little bit of a dark line on the water just beyond Robben Island, coming out, coming from offshore, coming from the north. So it looks if Puma tack into that, then they'll have a nice little send-off around the fleet at the moment. What I have been watching, Guy, is all the boats down here. I think, I hope, apologies if Knut has already talked about them, all the different sail combinations. And one thing to remember out here, especially in these light conditions, is too many changes can also be a bad thing. You don't want to unsettle the boat too much. Try to make as few changes, but as good a change as possible.
Well, let's see who has made the best changes at the moment. Yes, Canute.
Yeah, I'm just Ericsson 4 just got their bowman up in the top of the mast, or hoisting up in the rig, and typically something you do when you want to see where the patches of breeze is. And what is clear is that whenever you can stay on starboard here, you'll slowly get better and get into a solid breeze. But whatever time you have to make a port tack, it sets you backwards. And just look what happened to Telefonica Black. They went straight behind Telefonica Blue, and how far behind they are right now, sitting on that port tack just too much. So you want to avoid sailing as much as you can on the port and just work starboard all the time, because that's going to bring you towards the breeze. But E4 again looking very solid, having nice pressure and they're bombing up in on the top, second top spreader, looking for breeze and trying to report down to the Brazilian maestro.
Now, is this a bit of a concern for the fleet? I'll throw this out to Knut and Lisa. That Ericsson, we knew they were good in the heavy weather because they were the quickest coming into Cape Town. It looks as if they're quite sharp in the thin stuff as well. So I'll start with Lisa.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a bit.
Oh, we'll start with Knut.
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, it's a bit early to judge that on boat speed. I think what happened here the first hour now is nothing to do with boat speed really. It's just about to smell the breeze and then be at the right place at the right time. And whoever was that would look good. So this is not really speed, but I think when we get into a bit more solid pressure, so it's not so patchy, you can start talking about boat speed. To me, actually, Green Dragon looks pretty nice. She's going well here, but it's very difficult to say. And the interesting thing is that the fast boats in light airs are supposed to be the Telefonica boats. And I was a bit disappointed about their maneuvers. They made a lot of maneuvers on Telefonica early here, both of them actually, which have costed them heavy miles. But I think you'll find that Telefonica Blue is slowly settling in. They have probably the most conservative sail setup with a big Genoa instead of Code Zeros, which is going to make it easy for them to make tacks. But Ericsson 4 don't have to tax, so there you go. But if Blue can lay the corner here, it will look pretty good, I think.
Well, looking at, don't know, how's the reception back there, Peter? Can you still hear us all right?
Yeah,
yep.
we can. Fortunately, you're not going very fast away from us, very quickly away from us. So
very true.
It sounds like we'll have you for a while yet. It's crystal clear right now.
Well, we do have this split fleet, and we're in the middle. We're just ahead of Green Dragon. To our right is Puma, to our left is Telefonica Blue. And Lisa, what do you see out on the horizon?
I'm just thinking a little bit ahead, not to get too ahead of ourselves at the moment, as light as it is here in the bay. Just looking around the coast, just past, down past, I think it's Bantry Bay and Bantry Point and Camps Bay. It does look like quite a bit of low cloud on the horizon, so I'm sure that they've got lots of changes coming up for the rest of the afternoon, and what we've just witnessed is the first of many to come, I'm sure.
Well, possibly just as well. We saw the guys having a sandwich then in that delay before the race was started, because it looks as if they will be busy changing sails for the rest of the afternoon as they make their way out of Cape Town here. Ericsson 4 continuing to lead, Puma and Green Dragon behind them with Telefonica Blue. Those three really vying for second, third and fourth at the moment. Difficult to put them in order as we look at the moment. Behind them we'll have Ericsson 3, Delta Lloyd, and both Telefonica Black and Team Russia perhaps paying the price for just perhaps being a little bit greedy and looking for a little bit too much breeze in at the coast, and now really paying the price a little bit. They are beginning to fall off the back of the fleet.
But hey, Guy, this is Knut here, and I'm right with E4, and I can tell you that Ericsson 4 has just dropped a lot of speed. So the patches are still there. They're not safe at all, because they just really came to a standstill here and struggling big time to find a breeze again. So we have kind of two extremes here. We have Puma quite far out, and we have Telefonica Blue all the way in. And there's a couple of times here in Cape Town where a winner has managed to get really close to the beach and sneak around the fleet. But certainly the forecast, as we got from one of the locals here as well on board our boat, is that there's going to be some strong southwesterly out there. And if there is strong southwesterly out there, you would like to work yourself towards the southwest, which means not going too close to the land. But right now I would say that Ericsson 4 is very slow and have slowed up big time. So they're not really any patches of breeze here. And it's going to be interesting to see what Puma is doing out there behind them.
Knut, I'll just say we've been watching Puma. That's one of the boats we've had our eye on, one of the boats with the cameras working, and they've just been switching a couple sails from down below up onto the deck, so might be worth keeping an eye on them to see if they've got any sail changes planned. They've definitely pulled something out of the cabin and brought it up on deck. I will just also say, if you're following us on .tv, the helicopter has come down for refueling, so we do just have shots from on board the boats, and not too many of the boats right now. We've just got Puma and Delta Lloyd as our two choices. So again, we're not trying to exclude anybody, but those are the choices we have right now.
Lisa spotted a bit of breeze ahead of Ericsson 4, so possibly she could be picking up a little bit of speed at the moment. And I guess Puma from the side, they're coming in could also benefit from that, but that's touch and go at the moment. But there does appear to be patches of breeze ahead of Ericsson 4 at the moment. So if she gets into that first, she could edge ahead that bit further. But it's very, very difficult, very shifty. Water's lumpy out here as well at the moment. Difficult sailing conditions for the guys. And really, it's a matter of patience, Lisa.
Hey Guy, I'm just here with one of the local sailors from the yacht club here in Cape Town, and what they're predicting is that the westerlies are going to fill in further out, that we can almost see them. If you look on the horizon towards the west, you can almost see that it's a bit darker on the horizon, it's a bit darker down on the water, and what they think is that the breeze is sitting out there, so whoever gets first to that westerly is going to look really, really good. So probably 2 miles, 3 miles from here, there is potentially more breeze filling in from the west. And the question is, who gets this breeze first? Right now, Ericsson 4 just got the breeze back again. Nice little patch around them, and they're just speeding up again and certainly accelerating. So it could be that Ericsson 4 has a really nice mover and is positioned well for this westerly breeze just to fill in. And that could be giving them a huge lead if that really happens.
Knut, I'm just thinking beyond this first day at sea. Talk us through the rest of this leg, because this is a very different race course for the Volvo Ocean Race. We're heading to Asia for the first time. There's a scoring gate involved that's just down a meridian of longitude, basically between Antarctica and 20 degrees south latitude. But just talk us through what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, what's going to happen now is that the next place they have to round really is the island of Mauritius, where they have to leave that to the left, and but they want to cut the corner, or whether they want to make the long way around is the two big options you have to decide on here on this leg. Because when you round Cape de Good Hope, normally you would point for the shortest distance, you will basically point at Mauritius. However, this time we have a scoring gate which goes all the way from Mauritius all the way down to the South Pole. So you can head straight east from the Cape de Good Hope, and that will be the closest distance to the gate. However, it won't be the closest distance to India. And in general, the weather pattern on this first part of the leg is that the strong breeze is sitting in the south, the low pressures that we know in the Southern Ocean, and you would like to hook up to one of those low pressures as soon as you can and ride it towards the east. But at some stage you have to break off, obviously, and leave the breeze and head north, and there you have a big high pressure sitting, which is not as stationary as the South Atlantic high, but it's a high pressure, and a high pressure means that the breeze is turning towards the clock, not with the clock, as it's doing on the northern hemisphere. So you'll have to sail around that high pressure, going in a big circle to the right, which is much longer distance, or you'll have to go upwind the short distance toward Mauritius. That's kind of a traditional route, but obviously a lot of things can happen before that. And then through the doldrums, which are much more patchy than they are in the Atlantic, light wind, strong wind, and then from the doldrums all the way up to India, a lot of things can happen. It can be very light, you can have a tropical cyclone developing, and you can have some heavy breeze around that, but very difficult to predict that part of the leg. So what is going to be interesting is to see the choices they make about 2 days from now, because you either have to go the long way around, or you actually have to point at Mauritius and the shortest distance and risk losing some points at the gate.
Well, we've heard from some of the guys interviewing them that is going to be the big call, and even if you do start with the more southerly route where you're just heading east, trying to get to that scoring gate quickly, at some point you're going to have to break north. And I know Fernando Echevarri was telling me that you might be first at the scoring gate, but that might just set you up to be last into Cochin. So some big choices there, and that might be when we start to see some of the stealth play cards thrown down as they try and hide themselves from when they make that break to the north.
Hey Peter, I'm just with Green Dragon, who are going really nicely at the moment. I would say that Green Dragon and Telefonica Blue have very soon passed, at least on the advantage line, they have passed the Puma, and have been sitting nicely in some nice breeze.
It does look as if Puma perhaps are beginning to lose out by that move, Knut. You're absolutely right. From where we are, we're out near Puma, and they don't appear to be moving with any pace at all at the moment, which could be very good news for Green Dragon. My other thought is, where would you put Telefonica Blue at the moment?
Well, I think Telefonica Blue has been doing nice. I mean, they're doing really well. They They have been very sitting still with the same sail. They have a bit smaller sail than the others, but a much easier sail to work in these light air patchy conditions. But it's so patchy, like they were looking good 2 minutes ago, and now I would say Telefonica Blue have slowed down again, and now it's the Ericsson 4 again that's moving.
Well, Lisa's been looking out in front of us to see whether she can get any clues over the next couple of hours or next few hours. What have you made, Lisa, looking out ahead of where now Ericsson 4 are beginning to move?
Well, Guy, this is much more how I remember a start in Cape Town, where you're looking for that puff of breeze around the backside of Table Mountain. It's very patchy out here. I've seen there's a little bit of a wind line down to the south of the coast a bit, so I think between that and coming in off the ocean for any hopes of a sea breeze, it's not building sea breeze at the moment, so they're going to have to look for any little puff they can get into just to eke out in front and get out of this spectator fleet, which is actually causing most of the upwash and the chop for them right now.
Well, you're in amongst that spectator fleet. Would you go along with that at the moment, Knut?
I'm right with Telefonica Blue and Green Dragon, and Telefonica Blue is nicely hiking up here in front of Green Dragon. And this is a tricky thing with these boats, because they can only carry one of these big Cod Zeros. And the question is, how flat do you make this big sail? Because you really want it to work in a lot of different wind angles. And for upwind purposes, to have a nice Genoa is the best. But right now Telefonica Blue is going for a Cod Zero as well. And I would say that Telefonica Blue is now the second boat in this fleet, looking very fast and smooth and slowly coming up towards the line of Ericsson 4, and just now hoisting their Cod Zero.
We're just establishing exactly where we are on the race course as we head away now from downtown area of Cape Town. Ericsson 4 continuing to lead. Interesting to see who we would consider second, certainly between Green Dragon and, you would say, Telefonica Blue at the moment. Puma struggling, still flapping away on the right-hand side of the course. How frustrating must that be after that blistering start off the start line? Probably drifting back into fourth place now. We've got Ericsson 3 in fifth, Delta Lloyd probably in sixth, and then a long, long way back, Russia and Telefonica Black. So that looks certainly at the moment, as we round the headland, that is race order as we speak at the moment. Peter, would you have any changes to that?
Well, unfortunately, where we are, we can see them, but we can't really identify them. That you guys have started to move a little bit too far away from us to have any good opinion from here. What I can say is, from the onboard on Puma, you guys are absolutely spot on. They are still really, really struggling, and you can see a bit of frustration on board as they try and tease and tickle every last little half knot of speed that they can out of it. But right now it's really a big ask on board Puma. They're really, really in some light conditions still.
Lisa, are we hitting a little bit more breeze out here at the moment, or is that just an optical illusion on my part? Actually, looking at the sails, I think that's just wishful thinking. Poor old Ericsson 4, but they are continuing to eke out. Knut, where are you at the moment?
Well, I'm right behind Green Dragon, actually, and it's interesting to see what's happening here. We have Telefonica Blue is just hiking up to the line of Ericsson 4, and I think they're sniffing some breeze up there, and they're just about to unfurl their Cod Zero, while Green Dragon seems to be happily living down to leeward here and sailing a bit different course. But I'm really cautious about what the locals on board our boat said, that they think the breeze line of the westerlies are sitting further out just in front of us. So whoever managed to get that breeze first is going to leave the fleet, that's for sure. And no one has it yet, but for sure Ericsson 4 is looking good at the moment.
Well, we're on board with Delta Lloyd right now. We've got a stern camera there looking forward from the back of the boat, and again, pretty light conditions, but it is still patchy. They seem to have breeze for a moment. The boat heels over a little bit more, it picks up pace, but it only lasts a minute or two before it eases off again and everything slows down. So it's got to be a pretty frustrating time. Lisa, I'm thinking back to 2001 and seeing you guys come in to the finish at Rio, I believe it was, and that those must have been some of the longest hours of your life in conditions not too dissimilar to this, where you were close to the finish line but I think you were working against a current, and that last mile must have taken you a couple of hours.
What do I do with that now?
Hey Peter, this is Knut. I'm just with Telefonica Blue here, and I think talking about speed, I think now is the time for Telefonica Blue to show that they have really designed and rigged this boat for a lighter performance, because they clearly showed this in Alicante, and I think we will find pretty soon that we will see them eating a bit of the miles or the distance of E4.
Lisa's also pointed out, looking at the top three boats at the moment, that they're pretty much packed with Olympic campaigners, guys who are used to this kind of perhaps having to eke out everything you can, Lisa.
Absolutely. I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking of the streaky bacon I had for breakfast. It's so streaky on the water that that's where the technical finesse will actually come into play, and that's showing among the leaders at the moment.
Torben Grail, Ian Walker, of course, both multi-Olympic medalists. We've got Ika Martinez as well on Telefonica Blue, the co-skipper. So Lisa, absolutely right. It is the guys perhaps who are more used to that kind of sailing, who kept their patience and are now keeping the lead. Puma, we're close to Puma, but you do feel that they are drifting away now, that even Ericsson 3 might be certainly alongside them on the other side of the racecourse, but Ericsson 4 leading from probably Telefonica Blue and then Green Dragon, but that looks to be the top three from where we sit on the racecourse. Nothing much though between Green Dragon and Telefonica Blue in that second place. What about our leaders though? Ericsson 4 continuing just edge forward, but it is desperately hard work for all the boats at the moment. The one that does look, and Canute, you picked up on it, is Delta Lloyd. Do seem to be catching up again with the fleet.
Yeah, Guy, we're actually on board with Delta Lloyd, and we're just trying something. If you're watching on .tv, we've got the spreader camera, and we've just been able to rotate it around to see forward off the boat. You can see the boats ahead, and from that height, you can also see how patchy it is on the water. There looks like they're maybe into a light patch right now, but it looked like maybe a little bit more wind up ahead of the guys on Delta Lloyd there as they try and chase down the leaders in this race. But they have made a little bit of progress over the last 10 or 15 minutes, I'd say.
I don't mean to be rude about Telefonica Black, but can you still see them? Because they look an awful long way at the back of the fleet as far as we're concerned from here.
Well, let me take a look out the window here. I think both Telefonica Black and Team Russia really have fallen off the back of the fleet. From here, I can't identify them, and that's not to say they're not there. There are
it looks to us as if they're still actually heading out away from the coastline, so not quite sure what's happened. That's Russia who have moved that way, so that's Telefonica Black who are just now a long way behind Delta Lloyd and making that move. But those two, you're absolutely right, Peter, a long way behind. It's getting quite crackly out here in my ears. I don't know, I hope the sound's back in the studio.
Yeah, the sound coming back is not too bad at all right now, Guy, but we'll let you know. We'll stay with it for a few minutes. What we'd like to see is that call that Canute has been making, that one of these guys eventually is going to pull into something, and when they do, they'll be off. We'd like to stay with it until then if we can, but of course if this turns into a drifting match all the way down the coast, we are going to have to leave it. And if that's the case, you're going to have to follow the race on the internet on volvooceanrace.org, where Mark Chisnell is blogging the start of the race, and he'll be doing that into the afternoon and let you know who's coming out on top as the afternoon progresses.
Hey Peter, this is Knut. Can you hear me over?
Yeah, you're coming through fine, Knut.
Great. I'm just behind Green Dragon here, and they are looking really nice. They have good pressure on Green Dragon. I was just the supporters on Green Dragon behind me here yelling at them. Green Dragon seem to be picking up breeze pretty quickly here, and right now sailing into a complete new breeze line in front of us. And I think that it might be the start of the solid breeze filling in, because they're certainly looking powered up, and in front of them there's clearly breeze.
Okay, well we'll try and keep track of that. Unfortunately, we don't have a camera on Green Dragon, and we don't have a helicopter going up into the air again. So we're trying to watch this, at least picture-wise, from both Delta Lloyd and Puma Ocean Racing right now as our two cameras and our eye on the fleet. We're on board with Puma right now, still looking very light. The boat just really bobbing up and down in that chop, Canute, and they do still seem to be quite slow.
Does look as if Green Dragon have put the afterburners on a bit, Lisa.
So have we. We have moments of speeding ahead ourselves. It looks like the Green Dragons have just picked up a little something along the shore here with Ericsson 3 hot on their heels, and Telefonica Blue just a little bit more towards us offshore is not looking so fast at the moment. I wouldn't say anyone is rocketing along, but looking out here at the top 5 boats, it looks like keeping your sails full and keeping the momentum going is paying off.
Absolutely right. So that is Ericsson 4 in the lead. It does look as if Green Dragon have pulled out a little something from somewhere. Canute, apologies, I can't really hear terribly well now. I understand that you can still hear us. Are you alongside Green Dragon, did I hear?
Yeah, I'm right behind Green Dragon, and they are certainly sailing into the breeze. I see a nice breeze line, nice, I would say, a couple of 100 meters ahead of Green Dragon, and that even some small white caps far away, and I think there is news out there, and hooks onto that first, being Ericsson 4 Green Dragon, but probably Ericsson 4 is going to look really good there. You'll see them stretching big time on the behind them.
Well, very light, frustrating conditions here for the Volvo Ocean Race fleet on the restart of leg 2. It hasn't always been like that. The race was postponed for a short time, but when it got underway, boy, it got underway with a bang. Puma Ocean Racing roaring off the starting line ahead of the others in 15 to 20 knots. The big head sail unfurled very quickly, and they were off to the races. The rest of the fleet falling in line behind, and it looked like it was going to be an absolute cracking send-off for the race to India. It was like that for about half an hour, but shortly after turning the second turning mark, rounding the second turning mark, the fleet came back near the starting line, and that's where everybody parked up. And since then, it's been a bit of a drifting match as the fleet tries to make its way down the coast into the new line of breeze and offshore, where they're going to pick up, hopefully, the westerlies that are going to power them along towards India. Guy, where you are, what are you seeing? Well, Guy, it doesn't...
Peter, I don't know if you can still hear us, but we really can't hear anything out here on the boat at the moment. So we're going to head back down towards the fleet and see how the back markers are doing.
Hey, guy, I'm just... Oh, it's happening. I tell you, this breeze is shifting to the left, which is a sign of something happening. You'll find that Ericsson 4 is certainly pointing 20 degrees lower again, and it might be that Green Dragon has made a good here. I mean, they're certainly looking good here, sailing at least 20 degrees higher than Ericsson 4. I think it is like our boat could be the breeze line. And they might soon be up with jibs if this fills in a couple of minutes. And you can see Green Dragon probably as well putting the bow down to get as quickly as possible into this new. There's a new wind direction here, and will definitely gain both the weather as the breeze is shifting to the left, pointing here.
Okay, thanks, Canute. You're starting to break up a little bit there as well, which I think is a sign that we are about to wrap it up. Guy, can you come in there?
Yeah, we're just heading back. I think you can just probably hear us. We've gone back, and Delta Lloyd, you have to say, are looking very nicely set. Very full sails. They've followed the line perhaps that Green Dragon did earlier, and is certainly paying off. Green Dragon certainly looks second now. Ericsson 3 also going very nicely and might have edged ahead of Telefonica Blue in fourth. Poor old Puma. Puma have been caught by Delta Lloyd. They genuinely have been caught by Delta Lloyd in fifth, and they're probably sixth now after that fantastic start. Behind us, Telefonica Black, and it looks as if Team Russia have gone off for a completely alternative sail. We can't even really see them at the moment. So yes, that is the top, that is the positions as we have to, I'm afraid, break up out here at the moment. But Delta Lloyd going past Puma, really the last position.
Well, Guy, thank you for that roundup, and Canute for your valuable insights as well. we're going to call it a day here on VolvoOceanRace.org and .tv for the start of leg 2. The fleet is at sea. They're going slowly now, but we don't expect that to last for too long. They should pick up some big breeze shortly. You can follow all of the action on VolvoOceanRace.org. Mark Chisnell will be blogging it. He'll let you know what's happening, and of course we'll be switching into our standard race coverage mode for the next 2 weeks, maybe about 18 or 19 days that it's going to take the fleet to reach Cochin, India. For Guy Swindles, Lisa McDonald and Knut Frostad, I'm Peter Rush. Thank you for watching and listening to us, and we'll see you again next time.